What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Imagining Tech. So I just got done watching an episode of The Breakfast Club. I like watching The Breakfast Club from time to time. They have super interesting guests on the show, and if it's a guest I know, I'll usually tune in just to hear what they have to say. But I was watching the episode, and it was actually an episode with Akoin in it. Now, I grew up listening to Akoin. Like, I like Akon's music, but he was on there and he was talking a lot about his story and about all the things that he's been up to, basically. And like, if you haven't really been following Akon's story, I definitely recommend you like do some research, because this guy is on it. Like, he's been on it. Like, I knew he was a big popular artist. Like I said, I listened to his music growing up. I had a lot of respect for him, being that he was from Africa and he migrated here, and then to have the level of success here in the entertainment industry, when it's, he pretty much changed the game with his whole African sound. So I always had a lot of respect for him. But he really has been doing a lot of things. Like, I knew about his whole Lighting Africa thing, because he basically did this thing where he got power to a whole bunch of African countries. But I didn't really realize like how much actually went into it, because when he was on the show, he was breaking down the story about how exactly it happened, because he obviously, I mean, he has money, he has like some money, but he's not like a billionaire or anything like that. So for him to even be able to do something like that is incredible. And like, he had to really pull some strings to make it happen, because what happened was he was going on tour in Africa. He was doing his music and all that stuff, and there would always be like power outages. And because of that, he was just like, it raised to his attention like, oh, we have a problem here in Africa as far as, the energy is concerned. So his original idea was to go like a traditional route and try to raise some money in order to put a power plant in Africa. So he goes to the president of his country in Africa, and he's talking to the guy, and he's like, hey, how would you feel if I put a power plant here in Africa? I would have to go raise the money, but if I could go raise the money to do it, would you be okay with me putting this power plant here so that the people of this country could get access to the energy? And the guy, I mean, the president, he seemed like he gave him the impression like, okay, yeah, of course, you know what I mean? Yeah, if you can really raise the money, then absolutely, you know what I mean? We'll do it, you know what I mean? Long story short, Akoin already kind of had the money situated. He already had like a plan to get the money. He already had somebody ready to give him the money. So he goes back to the guy and he tells him, hey, I got everything in order. Like, when can we go forward with this? And that's when the president had to level with him and be like, I didn't really think you'd be able to do it. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't think you'd be able to raise like over $1 billion to put a power plant here. Like, unfortunately, this is gonna cause problems. Like, basically, like, it's gonna, politically, it's a bad move. Like, he said this is how wars get started, basically. So, I mean, can you imagine that? That's terrible. Like, that's crazy. Like, that lets you know how bad Africa is right now, just to be able to do something like that. But even here, like, it's kind of the same thing when it comes to lobbyists in America. Like, you can't go full forward force with new technology the way you'd like to, solar powered homes and vehicles that don't run on gasoline, because there's a huge lobby, that makes billions of dollars every single day. So it's like trying to fight that, is tough, because they've already been established themselves so much, and they're going to spend every dollar they have. They might not go to war necessarily, but they don't need to, because they have the government and the politicians in their back pocket. But anyway, so he was talking about how he raised the money, but the president told him, hey, we can't do this. Okay, well, that's no good. So he's basically like feeling sad about it. And then he's thinking about it, and he's like, what other approach can I go with? And that's when he came to him to go for solar energy. Now, solar energy is a lot more cheap. It's a lot more efficient, and it's a different way to bring energy to the continent. And what ended up happening is that China was making solar panel products for the U.S., but at some point along the line, U.S. I guess put like a huge tariff on the products, the solar panel products coming into the United States, because like I said, tariffs, it's like I said, lobbyists, people who don't want that kind of stuff in America just yet because they're trying to make money, so they keep it out. So now China has all these solar products that they can't move. So that's when Akoin actually, he did his research enough to know that they had these products, found a way to get in front of somebody, I don't know who he got in front of, and then facilitate a deal to where they could loan him the money to buy the products, and then basically now he's getting paid back every couple of years, because the budget's only so big for a lot of these African countries. So if he can get back a percentage of it every couple of years, he can pay back the Chinese what he borrowed to make the deal happen, and it works for both sides. So I just thought that was incredible, man. And like the amount of like go-getter that takes to do something like that, especially after, like I said, he already had money, he's already rich, but he was out here trying to make a difference and trying to help. And like people like that, I was just like, man, that's incredible. Like Akoin is like, he's got my respect for sure after that. But then he was talking about he's got this, he made a cryptocurrency called Akoin. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. Like, I didn't even know Akoin was into cryptocurrencies, but apparently he's trying to make like a whole crypto city, like a whole crypto city in Africa, and he wants the whole continent to use his Akoin. And that's interesting because, I know obviously there's going to be thousands and millions of user-generated currencies, and just to see that Akoin is so forward-thinking and coming out with his, I mean, that's good. Like his is going to be mostly geared towards entrepreneurs, and basically just injecting liquidity into a market that doesn't have it. Because anybody who knows anything about Africa knows that a lot of the problem that Africa has, that they suffer from, is they don't have access to money. Basically, it's hard to get a good return on investment for a lot of foreign investors, so they don't always go in there and pump a whole bunch of money into Africa. At least not certain parts. But I think user-generated currencies are going to be good for the country overall. I don't know enough about his cryptocurrencies, but I actually went to the website, and it looks pretty interesting. He laid out some facts about Africa that I didn't know. For example, 25% of the world's population lives in Africa. That's interesting. So that's huge. Also, there is the most young people in the world in Africa, actually. Like if you look at like all the people inside a country, like Africa has a lot of people that are under 25. So as far as like entrepreneurship, as far as like innovation, as far as like this whole fourth industrial revolution that we're going through, like who's better to understand that than people who are 25 and under? You know what I mean? Like that's the people who are gonna get it. And like I've been seeing like so much support for crypto inside Africa. Like it's crazy, man. Like Africa, I really believe will be like, it's definitely emerging. Like the whole continent is definitely emerging, and having access to a banking system, so to say, with the blockchain will allow Africa at least the opportunity to compete on the global stage, which I feel like it hasn't really been afforded to this point. And if Akoin is creating a cryptocurrency, then obviously he's not a dumb guy. He has a plan. And not only that, like the man just provided power to like I think like 18 different countries in Africa. Like, the man's on a roll. He's got momentum. He's got support. You know, if he wants to get a cryptocurrency adopted, well, there's a good chance that there's going to be at least some level of adoption, because he's got the connections. You know what I'm saying? And he's building an app to go along with this crypto. And a lot of that, I think the crypto city he's working on, and it's supposed to be, I don't really know all the details, but I think it's some coming out next year as far as the crypto city, like more developments on that. And you know, I think he's got, I don't know, I want to know, what I really want to know is, like, I'm gonna do some more research into it, because I just heard him speaking about it and I just briefly looked at the website. But I really want to know what blockchain he's building on, and if he's not building on any blockchain, like, which is he building his own blockchain? Like, how is he gonna facilitate all these trades? Because that's interesting, you know. One of the main problems is in some of these emerging countries, they don't have a lot of money to spend, so having a feeless network is all the more critical, because it's one thing to, you know, if you gotta spend like massive amounts of money just to push a transaction through on the network, and even if it's not massive, even if it's just $1 or $2, like, that could be somebody's, you know what I mean, whole day of work. Whereas, like, obviously over here in the West, that's not necessarily the case. Like, you may make, you know, $100 in a day, but so $1 or $2 just to push a transaction, it sucks, but it's not the end of the world. But that's just not viable in certain parts of the world. So that'll be interesting to see what blockchain he ends up choosing for that. But yeah, no, definitely look into the Akoin, guys, if they're interested in Akoin. I'm gonna go ahead and leave the video there, and peace.